You know, why are red and blue always put in opposition to each other? That seems like a strange color designation for opposing sides. I mean, AFC and NFC, Mario Kart, Halo, Republicans and Democrats. Even at the end of Sleeping Beauty, you got the red fairy and the blue fairy fighting over the color of her dress, which is odd, but that's Disney for you. And then, of course, there's the WWE with Raw vs. SmackDown. Seems strange. So I'm going to preview Bragging Rights, which is based on the Raw vs. SmackDown concept. I know I promised a question and answer video for this week, but to be honest, I filmed it twice. And it wasn't the questions, because the questions I got were fine. One of them even made me chuckle. But I filmed it twice, and I just felt like I wasn't coming across very well. I felt like I was boring. So I decided to shelve that video until next week. Hopefully I can tweak it and make it work, and make it so that y'all enjoy it. And this week I'm going to preview Bragging Rights, which is yet another pay-per-view that I am not going to be spending $45 on. And it's because of the lousy creative of the WWE. Number one, the concept does not work. It's yet another gimmick that the WWE is trying to manufacture and force down our throats to sell a pay-per-view, and it has no meaning, it has no purpose, and it doesn't matter. Who cares whether or not Raw or SmackDown wins this thing? The winning side gets a trophy. That's it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They weren't feuding a month ago, so it's not playing off of anything that happened in the past. And guess what? If last year was any indication, they're not going to be feuding next month either, because Survivor Series is coming up, and the team battle matches in that show are going to be mixed and matched between the brands. How do I know that? Because like I said, that's what they did last year. So this whole, the intense rivalry between Raw and SmackDown is so forced and manufactured and serves no purpose, and I don't care. It's essentially the WWE's version of the Pro Bowl. And for all the football fans out there, I'm speaking for myself. Yeah, it's kind of cool that the NFC wins, but I don't really care. I want the Giants to win the Super Bowl every year. That's what I want. And if the NFC wins the Pro Bowl, that's not going to somehow appease me if the Giants didn't win the Super Bowl or didn't make the playoffs. You know? And yeah, that's what it is. And you look at the card for the show. We'll start with the team battle, 7-on-7 elimination match or one fall to a finish. I don't know. They haven't made up their mind on that yet. I'm going to say it's going to be an elimination match because that's what they said on Raw this week. And what is it? Team SmackDown. It's Hornswoggle as their mascot because Hornswoggle is always funny and is always a wonderful presence on the show. We have a blue leprechaun now that babbles incoherently into a microphone, and that's commentary for a match. By the way, Raw this week was absolutely dreadful. One of the worst shows I've ever watched, or at least in the last few months or so. But let's see, Team SmackDown is Big Show, Kofi Kingston, Jack Swagger, Edge, Alberto Del Rio, Rey Mysterio, and Tyler Rex, who I didn't even know he was still with the company. So, see, this is how it's not like the Pro Bowl, because the Pro Bowl is the best players playing in the game. This is just kind of random. It's like, oh, hi, Tyler. Didn't know you were still here. Nice to know you still have a job. And then on the Raw side, it's Team Captain The Miz, who I guess Alex Riley is their mascot. I don't know, but it's Miz, Punk, Morrison, R-Truth, who is another one I can't stand, Ezekiel Jackson, Sheamus, and there's one more who is slipping my mind. Oh, God. Santino Marella, who I think I can count on one hand the number of matches that guy's won. And a couple years ago, he was funny. He's not funny anymore, which is unfortunate, but what can you do? But I'm not saying the match will be bad. The talents will probably go out there and put on a good match. But my point is, it doesn't matter. I don't care which brand wins because, Raw's going to be the A show no matter what happens. So it does not matter. I don't care who gets that goddamn trophy. It's a gimmick that has no meaning, has no purpose. And like I said, it's not going to matter in the long run because they're going to ignore it a month from now. Most likely. And I'm basing that off their own history. I can assume that. And keeping with the Raw versus SmackDown theme, we've got Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler, who I am very high on both those guys. I think Daniel Bryan is great talent. And Dolph Ziggler, I was singing his praises long before the WWE put a belt on him. just unfortunate how bad creative can take a match that would normally interest me. I was like, okay, I would want to see that match. But the creative and the writing is so bad that it just ruined that match. First of all, they had no feud. They just threw them together on Raw this week. Second, Ziggler's paired with Vicky Guerrero, who is a lousy performer, and I do not want her on my television at all anymore. And the segment they did was grounded... The segment became about the Divas. They came out, humiliated Vicky Guerrero by throwing glitter on her, which... Wow, you really showed her, guys, or gals, or whatever. And then they had Daniel Bryan dance with the Divas, and it's funny. It's like, congratulations, you've officially made me not care about the feud. I mean, didn't you learn from Lance Storm that doing this dance gimmick with a serious wrestler isn't going to work? And Dolph Ziggler, he doesn't... I'm not going to care about him if he's paired with Vicky Guerrero, because she's just annoying, and she's a cancer to the show whenever she's on there. I'm sorry. Oh, she gets heat. Yeah, she gets heat because she sucks. She's a terrible performer and has no business being in front of a television camera. And so there's that. Then we got Michelle McCool or Layla defending the Women Divas Who Gives a Fuck Championship versus Natalya. Now, I'm happy that they're using Natalya in a wrestling capacity, because for the longest time, one of my complaints was, it's like, okay, you've got Maurice wrestling, Alicia Fox is wrestling, Maria was wrestling, Kelly Kelly is wrestling, Tiffany... And Michelle McCool and Layla and all these girls who have no business getting in the ring because they're just not that good. Yeah, they're really not good and have no business in the ring, and they're kind of just learning on the job. They're not trained. And then you have girls like Natalya and Serena who are trained wrestlers, and they get used as valets. Does that make sense to anybody? That doesn't me. But there you go. That's WWE logic for you. And Lay Cool is awful. They are absolutely terrible. Michelle McCool being treated like a top girl cannot be justified to me, outside of the fact that she's fucking The Undertaker. I'm sorry, because she's not that good on the mic. She sounds like she's hocked up on NyQuil. The two are annoying when they're together. I think those two, with Vicky Guerrero and Hornswoggle, are kind of like the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and they just doom any show that they're a part of because they're so irritating and annoying. And... she's not that good in the ring. She doesn't have that strong a character. There's nothing about Michelle that makes her special and justifies her having the top spot outside of the fact that she blows the dead man. Yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, Lay Cole is probably going to win this match. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened. I would think that, and not that the women's division is that great in WWE, but if you're going to have a women's belt, just put it on the best girl. And Natalya is probably the best talent in mainstream wrestling as far as the women go. When you look at the WWE and you look at TNA, I think she's probably the best. So put the belt on her just to give it some kind of credibility, but they're not going to do that. I don't think they will. I could be wrong. But yeah, so there's that. And then we got the 2 world title matches. Yippee. Kane versus The Undertaker in a Buried Alive match. I don't know, how many pay-per-view matches have these two had? I don't care. If you're not going to do anything new with these characters, just get rid of them. Shelve them. They should be used to create new stars, tell new stories, and help build towards the future. And that's not what they're doing. They're just going out there and doing the same thing they were doing 12 years ago. And it was better 12 years ago. I'm sorry. The television show was so much better back then. The feud was so much better back then. WrestleMania 14, that was my favorite match on the show. I'll go as far to say that the match those two had was my favorite match in Undertaker's career. I'm not kidding. I enjoyed the match that much, and that's how strong both characters were at the time. Kane was like the Jason Voorhees of wrestling, and I mean that in a very cool, very good way. But now it's an ugly bald man fighting a man who's falling apart, it seems. It's just, I don't care. And now Paul Bearer turned on Undertaker. Hooray! We're back in 1996 now. Going back to that, I can't wait for Kane and Undertaker to team up and screw Paul Bearer over like they did in 98. That way the complete cycling of rehashing will be completely done. Yay! Oh my god, we've got the NWO on one show, and we've got Kane and Undertaker on the other. This really is, we're back in the Monday Night Wars. It's terrible. But yeah, I don't give a shit who wins. I keep telling you, Undertaker's gonna win that belt back at some point. He's gonna get a nostalgia run, whether it happens now or it happens at Survivor Series. It's gonna happen at some point. It's just sad to know that Undertaker's willing to put over Kane and not CM Punk when CM Punk was, the option for the best way to go storyline-wise last year. But nothing I can do about that now. So yeah, don't give a shit about that. Then we got Wade Barrett versus Randy Orton for the WWE title, which the idea of the Cena Nexus thing that they're doing is interesting. But again, bad writing can ruin good ideas. Apparently Wade Barrett is Mr. Petty. Don't you go anywhere, Cena. I've got a surprise for Randy Orton. And this is how we're going to close the show. Raise my hand. Well, it's real compelling television there, Wade. And, yeah, does anybody else think that Wade Barrett kind of looks like Nick Frost? Who, if you don't know who Nick Frost is, he's the fat co-star of Simon Pegg in Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. Both great movies, and he's very funny in both those movies. Wade Barrett is not funny, but and minus about 150 pounds. But yeah, I just think the two look very similar. They could pass for relatives, but just throwing that out there. Wade Barrett, I'm not real high on him. I think he's kind of boring. His finisher is the worst thing I've ever seen. It reminds me of Dino Bravo's side suplex, which wasn't really a suplex. It was a sidewalk slam. But he beat people with it, and it looked terrible, and it was one of the worst finishers ever. And I think Barrett's is called Wasteland, and it reminds me a lot of that. Just no impact at all. It's like, sack of potatoes. And it looks awful. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Barrett won the title, but we'll see. Randy Orton, I know I said he was the best babyface in the WWE, but you look at him, again, creative. They get their fingers into something. You got Michael Cole saying, oh my God, he's entered that place where the voices are speaking to him. And by the way, Michael Cole is the worst commentator in wrestling today. I'll get to him in a minute. But, yeah, he's the Viper, so he literally has to act like a snake. Because that's WWE mentality for you. Oh, Randy Orton's the Viper, so he has to slither around the ring and act like the way no other human being on the earth acts. And it's just, ugh. And Michael Cole, I mean, that guy is just so bad. He's another one of the ones that whenever I watch him on TV, it's just painful to listen to. He is the worst commentator in wrestling, and that says a lot because I don't think anybody on any show is that good right now. But Michael Cole, there's no consistency to his character. Oh, I love Raw. SmackDown can go to hell, even though he's on both shows, so whatever. And he likes Cody Rhodes because he's handsome. Okay, and he likes Vicky, he likes Dolph, but he likes all those guys, even though they're SmackDown guys, and he hates SmackDown. And he hates Daniel Bryan, even though Daniel Bryan fought for Raw, and Michael Cole likes Raw. None of this makes any sense, and, oh, Daniel Bryan's a nerd. Yeah, Michael Cole, you really have the right to be calling people nerds. It's just awful. And like, the Raw this week was more than anything else made me go, it's like, look, this pay-per-view is not worth ordering, because if anything good that you see in the WWE, or TNA for that matter, and it was the same problem I have with Bound for Glory, if the wrestlers go out there and have great matches, good for them, they get an A+ for effort, because God knows that creative isn't throwing them a bone and giving them nothing to work with. And that's the state of wrestling right now. Anything good that you see on WWE or TNA is because of the wrestlers and the effort that they put in the ring, and not because of what creative is doing, because creative is just fucking horrible. And that's sad. That I feel bad for the talents, because they have to put up with this every week. And Raw this week was just so bad. It was horrible. I was stunned by how bad it was, and it made me think, okay, you put Hornswoggle on commentary. Apparently the laptop is the only mode of communication for this mysterious GM. It's like nobody has a phone, apparently, that he can call. It's like the GM is the laptop. And that brain dead, just absolutely brain dead writing. The whole show was just bad. And it's just like, you know what? If they get a low buy rate, they deserve it.